Hey everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Ying's Squawk Box. It's been a lot of volatility in the stock market for the first quarter, and we finally come down to the final days of March, which going to wrap up this first quarter. And I thought in this episode we're just going to talk about Bitcoin, and in another episode I'm going to talk about first quarter wrap up. So with that being said, let's turn our attention to the chart. Right in front of me, I have the daily chart for Bitcoin versus US dollars. So as you can see, right now we're trading at $47,000 for each Bitcoin, and we've come a long way, right? Right off the bat, we're talking about this bottom here. Now, I'm saying it's a bottom right now because it came back up a little bit, and we're actually breaking this $45,000 benchmark. So in a small time frame, it's safe to say that we're already testing into this middle range. So if you're a short seller in this name and you have not got out, you should be getting worried. But that being said, for the bulls in Bitcoin, just to take a step back, we're not completely back in the bull run yet, right? Because we're still in the middle of no man's land, $47,000. There's still a heck of a lot of fight going on here. Potentially more volatility coming up. First thing I will watch out is this point here. It's around $53,000. Let's put a horizontal line, and that's actually going to be one big level. Combining with on this day, you can see this tail poking up. I would say at this point it's more of an area instead of a hard level, especially in the middle where there's no reference point. It's going to be very hard to trade off. If you're a day trader, you should expect a lot of room for your positions. Overall, in the long run, I think this name is still healthy. We had a lot of volatility in the past. On macro level, Bitcoin has been fighting all the way since 2021, which is the middle of the pandemic. Right off the bat, we have this resistance, that's level 1. Another level is up all the way up here, that's around 68,000. So these are all the good resistance points. And if history ever repeats itself, which sometimes does, and I think a good pattern to refer to is this pattern during the October, September of 2021. So if you take a look at this area, and if history does repeat itself at this point, then you can kind of move that part of the chart and put it up here. We're going to zoom out a little bit, and that is going to be a very ballsy expectation. And when I say ballsy here, I mean it's a very brave expectation in the sense that the assumption is strong, right? History does repeat itself. Now, of course, this is very rarely going to happen. I think the only price level to refer to is about 53,000 to 55,000. Other than that, I wouldn't trust this pattern that much. But to take a step back, if you want to draw that confidence interval, I think you can do a Monte Carlo simulation, and the pivot point could look something like this, which falls under the confidence interval if you do a Monte Carlo simulation, which kind of looks like that. So in other words, as of this point in the timeline, you can look at all the historical data of Bitcoin price, you can take a look at the average and standard deviation, and you can create different simulations, draw on data from the distribution created by that average and standard deviation. So if you do that, I bet you it will look something like this. And the blue area you can think of as 90% confidence level or even 95% confidence level. And the observation in the green area you can kind of think of within 80-90% of the samples. So in other words, what this experiment is telling us is from here, if you repeat the event many times and you get lots of simulated paths to the future, most of them should fall in the green area. Maybe a few outliers going to the blue on top here, a few on bottom here, but the majority of the cases, you should expect them to fall inside this green area. So with that being said, I think this chart looks healthy, which confirms my original idea. And just for full disclosure, I'll tell you where I bought it and why some of them good buys, why some of them are bad ones. The first buy in Bitcoin that I entered was actually somewhere here during January of 2021. So let's put an arrow. That's where I first started buying. So if you put a vertical line, it looks like that. So as you can see right now, this kind of looks like a good buy, right? But back in the days, I was actually getting scared because if you look back in time, that looks like this thing is not going to hold. That looks like there's still going to be a heck of a lot of room that's upcoming. So, which is exactly where I did. When I first bought in here, I actually didn't buy as heavy as I wanted, but the stock bounced back immediately, and when it bounced back, it's fast and furious. So I was actually kind of feeling frustrated because I didn't enter as heavy a position as I possibly wanted. So I got antsy, right? I got antsy. And my next buy is actually on this day, which now you can see, okay, it's not that good of price, right? We're already hitting below it. What are you going to do, right? Which leads to a couple of buys in the past few months that's the next buy on that day, and then maybe one buy on this day, and then another buy on this day. And that's about it. So in other words, it's not like all my entry points are perfect, right? Some of them are actually pretty bad. It's NC, it's a reflection of how frustrated I am with regards to my old positions, and that frustration can be translated into an entry point that perhaps is not ideal, right? So that's something to be aware of. Overall, if you bought at this area in January in 2021, I think you're pretty good to go. But if you hadn't involved in that time, and luckily you've been involved in January, February of 2022, so we're expecting a bounce back from here. We're gonna see how it holds up this 200-day moving average, which is somewhere in the middle, around $48,000. So let's put a horizontal line. If it's able to hold above here, I think we can expect the next target to come. So with that being said, best of luck in the market, and I'll see you in the next episode.